Thanks for listening and tuning in to Executive Conversations. On this podcast, I talk to go-to-market leaders about how to navigate executive conversations, because knowing how to do marketing at this level in B2B SaaS is not enough. You actually have to learn how to get buy-in, not only from your executives and board members, but also from your peers and everyone involved, so that you can actually do the thing. And I love this topic because it combines the three things I love the most: data storytelling, marketing, and psychology. And today I'm speaking to Ana Laura Zain, who is tuning in from Lisbon. She is the CMO at Pentaleap, a company that helps retailers and retail media networks monetize their inventory better and help brands get to the right customers. How's it going, Ana Laura?
Doing very well, thank you. And you?
I'm doing well as well. I was just telling Ana Laura that I am recording today. You guys might notice, if any of you are watching and have watched before, that my background is quite different from usual. I'm recording from rural Colombia, visiting my parents for a couple of weeks. I've set up a makeshift podcast studio, and let's see how it goes. I hope the sound is still as good. So, Ana Laura, you early this month just went from VP of Marketing to CMO. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me about that transition.
Basically that transition we kind of like the role changed because the company went through a spin-off. So basically there are two separate companies now. I joined the leadership team and my boss and the founder as well to join this new kind of like project. And with that, I think my role as a VP evolved into this like C-level role. And I guess naturally, but also because, I made like a big effort. And I think the main thing was like, I think there are a few things actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that actually helped me get there. The first thing, probably the relationship I have with my boss. So it's very interesting, and I can say this publicly because at the very beginning, I don't think we started with the right foot. And I was like, it's like working styles and how you work with people. Now everything is remote. I travel to meet people in person and everything, but I don't know if I was like, perhaps, but it was like super cool. It's the first time I had like a very honest conversation with someone. So I had like a feedback session with him and we talked a lot. And I think we both recognize this because I've heard it from him as well. It's like super cool to see how you can actually like, I don't know, develop like a very cool relationship with someone at work. And that relationship is kind of like based on trust. So before having that conversation where we were both like, I don't know if I can read this person very well, or at least that was like the feeling I had, then everything went really great. And not that everything goes really great all the time, of course, because we work in a very fast-paced environment and there are sometimes like things that don't go as we planned. But honestly, I think that trust, and that's something that my boss mentioned as well, that was great because after that, I felt completely empowered to do a lot of things. I can tell that he really trusts like what I say, and it's not a person that will tell you yes to everything. Not at all. So I need to justify, my campaigns. I need to justify why I think this will bring value. But honestly, I think that one of the things that led me to where I'm at, where I am today, is the fact that someone believed in me. But I also kind of like had to believe in myself because it's like, a lot of pressure, and it's like, you've been in charge of a team, you have to restructure things. Sometimes it's not that easy. So I think that part was super important. And I think kind of like making it to a C kind of like level role, the things that were critical for me were digging more into like the strategic things that are not only marketing related. So way more, just like, I don't know if people can see, but, rolling up my sleeves and thinking, okay, how are competitors thinking about this? Not only from a marketing perspective, questioning things way more when it comes to, strategic conversations that might be happening with the sales team, with partners, with other people in the industry, B2B influencers as well. And this is something that I think is like just like being very curious and asking a lot more. And I think this was also a key factor for me to say I've always been super interested in like financials and understanding the impact of marketing as well, which is really hard sometimes to measure. But these were other things, like it's not only my own little work, but it's like how is this impacting the business? So how are we, getting more information also from the product team, the roadmap, where are we going in the future? And I think you can only get this if you start like really like asking questions and proposing new things. And some things will just like end up buried somewhere, but it's like a way to start like getting that ball like rolling, I guess.
Yeah, so you started being really curious way before you became CMO and asking these kind of questions.
Definitely. Yeah. And actually, I think when it was very cool because when I joined this company, I started as like a fractional, I guess, consultant. And then I got the full-time role. And I remember in the first like conversation, I told my boss, which is the same boss I have today, I said, well, I actually want to be a CMO of this company. So I had this goal, but it's not that every day I woke up and I was like, oh, how can I be the next CMO? It was more like, I think that's why it evolved like naturally into this, but I of course had that in mind as a goal for my career.
I want to go back to something that you said earlier, which is you had to establish trust. And this is a big theme of this as well. It's like, how do you, before you can do anything, you have to establish trust with everybody that's going to be involved. What did you do to set that trust foundation?
That's a very good question. I think that one way to show that for sure is like not only through like conversations and things like that, but actually how you do your job and what like setting expectations, and then how do you deliver on those, right? So I think that's a very important thing, and that actually I think you have to develop that with time. So it's like conversations. I actually really, really value feedback sessions. So I have those with my team, but I actually have those as well with my boss. And I always ask, please, like, let me know, like, if there's anything that is, not going like very well, or you prefer not to do this or that. What's your perception? And I think sometimes it's not that easy, to have these type of conversations. Like for me, actually, it's like hard when people are like, oh, I think this will look better this way or that way. And I'm like, well, what do you know about this? And then I'm like, well, actually, they have a point. So I think the trust can also be developed that way, just like being open to like receiving feedback sometimes that perhaps you're like rushing with things and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want this, like, So yeah, I think that's a thing. And the other thing I forgot to say, but I'd love to add, is that I feel like something that helped me a lot in my career, and I've heard this a lot actually as a marketer. It's like, especially when you're a generalist, because that's how my career like developed into like being a generalist. I think that we do everything and anything that we can, like a lot of people do. And I think one of the key things is like actually learning how to prioritize and what to prioritize. And when you're like in more junior roles, I think the lack of understanding of the business priorities doesn't let you think about, okay, which one should I focus on right now? And I think asking that question instead of trying to do everything, I don't know if I was doing that early on in my career. Perhaps, I don't know, I was or I wasn't. But I think now it's like, that's why I think that initiated like okay, I need to understand where we're going because I want to plan ahead, and I want to plan ahead thinking, okay, what is a priority? Is this post a priority? No. Is this? And then sometimes I talk to my team, I'm like, okay, I know we said we're going to work on this, just like put it aside. Let's focus on this one. This is like more like this is an urgent thing right now, for instance. So yeah, I forgot to mention that, but I think that's like super critical, especially in like early days of your career as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because at companies, generally, the leadership is going to share with everybody, these are our goals, these are our OKRs. And then I think a lot of people in, more specialist positions or junior positions, they passively take that and say, okay, I know the company goals. But then there's a step that you need to take to actually go and ask more questions and dig more in, because any good company is going to be telling their team, these are the goals, right?
Yeah.
But then there's a different level of knowledge and a different level of understanding when you go and have to dig in. So was it just out of sheer curiosity, or were you like, oh, I need to figure out this other information and how it all ties together?
I think it's probably like, I think honestly, so the one of my first experiences in the ad tech world and marketing was at a company called Comscore, and they are like a measurement company. So I think that I probably, and I always say, like, I feel like this is going to be a little bit hippy dippy, but we're all made of the experiences that we had in life. And I think the real things, like, I probably learned a lot from others that are like very data driven, and especially at this company, because I honestly think this company was like a very good university for me in the sense of like how to think about campaigns, etc. So from colleagues to like direct reports to like leaders, I think that having that data-driven mindset is probably what makes me think a little bit more about like numbers that are not necessarily only marketing related, but more like company. So it's like, okay, if I think about like data and how to measure success, I cannot only think about the micro stuff. I need to check outside. And I think probably that comes from there. I don't know, but I think it's probably something like that. Also, honestly, I love like being in the, and this is like shameless. Like, I'm just like, I love being in like the conversations where like things are happening. I just like, don't want to be like only behind the scenes. Like, I love just like knowing what's happening, because then I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. We need to come up with a plan. So, I think it's a little bit of that as well.
And so you mentioned the company was like a university. Did you go to somebody and say, I want to learn more about this metric, or I want to become more data proficient? Can you help me? Or did you figure that out by yourself?
No, I think it's probably more like how they were doing things at the time, the marketing team. I also, it's very interesting. I also worked at events a lot for these companies as well, like Comscore and then UpNexus. And I think that gives you some sort of exposure as well to leadership. And I shared dinners, very early on in my career. I was like super junior, and I was like helping with events and doing things. And then you get to share time with like leaders, like the CMO of a company or this person. And then I think that got me really curious, because I'm like, oh, I want to know more about what happened with this client. It's like super. And I think that's probably what inspired me to just like continue to grow in my career, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And so currently, or even at your role at Crealytics, am I saying it right?
You said it right. Yeah.
Who were your stakeholders when you wanted to push a motion forward?
It's the CEO, which is my boss and the founder of the company. The CSO, which is the head of like sales. Also like director level sales, etc. The head of product, super important. Partnerships as well. So we have a partnership person now as well. And also the COO. We don't have a CFO, but our COO is kind of like the CFO as well. Those are the main people, a part of my team and people that I work with, HR, etc. But these are the main people that I'll say sales, product, and the COO and the CEO. Yeah.
Okay. And you have to get buy-in from all of these people?
Not for everything. So it's cool. This is one of the things that I actually discussed with my boss back in the days. Like, what are the things that you want to get, like, you want to make a decision on, or what are the things that you are like okay with, like marketing and not getting like, so I think of course budget related stuff, I don't have like money making machine, so I have a budget that I need to adjust for and everything. But I think that there are a lot of things that actually, as I mentioned, like I feel like very empowered to make a lot of decisions in this company. This is the main reason why I love this job. And I was working independently like 5 years before joining. So it was like a very interesting move to just like go back to corporate. But there are certain things, and it depends. So there are things that have to do with clients that, of course, the sales team they have way more ownership, and also like the CEO and like leadership has that, because basically that's like it could be very sensitive. So marketing in that sense, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to go and like just like do not ask permission. But I think honestly, with the people that we work with, it feels like very that we all collaborate, and doesn't feel like it's not a perfect job. I'm not gonna like selling the dream here, but most things I'm very energetic, and when I want something to happen, I want it to happen now. And I can tell like some people are like, okay, and then if I see that perhaps it will be tricky, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a step back. But in general, I think that the way I tackle things, because I'm result oriented, I feel like, and also I sound more confident than I am. I'm not confident. people people tell me, oh, it sounds like you know what you're doing. I'm like, well, sometimes I'm like, but it's like great to sell ideas, right? But then I need to deliver on those. And I guess if I really believe something will work, I would just like sell it to you. I'm like, just approve this because I know it will work. So yeah, or I'm like, no, I think this is not the right approach, But I guess also it's like now that I've been working with these people for over 2 years, it's like also, I don't know, I feel more comfortable really expressing my thoughts as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so the people that you mentioned that are sometimes like, whoa, hold on a second. And then you said you back off a little bit, but I imagine that doesn't mean you still don't want it to happen now. So how do you address that? And do you have any specific examples to share?
Yeah, I actually have an example to share. Recent one. It was like more with like technology. Basically, we had to make a very fast decision on like a tool and renewal, etc. And I've tasked my team to go through every area of the renewal and just like see pros and cons and just make a decision. I had more information than some of the stakeholders because we were going through the spin-off. So basically, I made that decision informing my boss. So I was like, okay, my boss is like, okay, then this is what we're doing. And it was the best decision ever based on like the very thorough process. But then this came into someone else's plate, and that person was like, well, this wasn't like the right decision. And I was like, well, this was one of the things that I was like, oh, this needs to happen yesterday. Let's do it. Boom, boom, boom. And because this person didn't have a context, it was like literally like being, okay, I need to breathe and give this person like a lot of context and like really explain the decision making process, because sometimes I think it's really hard to like put yourself in someone else's shoes and be like, it's hard. And I was like, oh, I don't know, why are they questioning me if this is obviously right? And then you're like, wait a minute, how can they know about this? So yeah, I think this is the things like I think one of the greatest tools I have is documentation. So I always ask my team, document everything. So we have a system where we save things. I love like these tools like ClickUp, etc. To hopefully they give me a discount for it, but to project manage things. And I think that documenting like why we make certain decisions and how we do it, etc., is very good then to back up these kind of like so that sometimes you're like, okay, I need to make a decision very fast right now because we were going through a migration, we had to do a lot of like operational and technical things before a lot of people knew about this project. And yeah, I think documenting things is actually very important as well.
So when you say documenting the decision, because you said you had to pitch it to your boss, he said, yes, let's go. Or I guess you didn't have to do like a big fancy pitch because there's the trust.
No.
It's just like, yeah, let's do it. And then when you say documenting the decision, it's writing down the data, the logic, etc., for the stakeholders who actually have to execute.
Actually, it's like more like how are we using, for instance, this is a tool, it's like a tool that we use as a CRM. So it's like, how are we using it, the different instances, and why do we need this instance? Why do we need this upgrade? Why do we need to keep the data like this or that? And there's like a technical background for that. So I think having, for me, and then for actually, because I always say the same thing, is like none of us, I don't think we'll stay in this job forever. So then it's like the typical case when you go somewhere, you're like, I do not understand how things work here. So I think for several reasons, having everything documented is very important. And I guess also for the decision-making process, because it's like, okay, why did you make this decision? Why is this like, a comparison between plans and renewals, etc. So, yeah.
I mean, even knowing that you have to do that as an exercise is probably helpful for you to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Because you have to write it down anyway. And then maybe at one point you might be like, oh, actually, I didn't think about that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So do you have to pitch anything differently when it comes to like involving the sale or like the CSO, or what's the relationship like with the CSO?
Actually, it's really good. I think we're all very focused on our missions, and the head of sales, and it was never like always the like everything is like beautiful with the sales team at this company. Everything always was kind of like super good, but I had experiences with like with sales that were like, oh really, like the typical case that I think I've seen a lot of memes on this like marketing millennials or something account that is like what was it, like that everybody knows how to do marketing, the typical like, oh, I need, what is it, make the logo bigger, I need a one pager, all these requests. I think the great thing is that the salespeople that I work with, they're really smart and they're really focused on selling. So that's great, because it's not like, oh, I need this or that. And then also, I think something that helps a lot is like, because I had these conversations as well. It's like, I need this campaign. Well, actually, no. Tell me what you want to accomplish, and I will tell you what's the best way to do it. So that's something I'm always like, okay, what do you want to accomplish? Who is your target audience? What is that you need right now? So you need to sell more. That's the main objective, probably. Okay, well, we are going to think about how to deliver that, and then let's measure like success, I guess.
Yeah. And you come from a background, you said that before you were working with this company, you had your own consultancy for 5 years?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so you had to also learn these skills to sell to clients.
Oh, yeah. And that was a hard job. So I was doing like sales and marketing. Yeah. I had that kind of like sales experience myself.
Yeah, because that kind of, I mean, when you're doing sales in an agency, and I learned also when I started flying cat that, I thought I was doing a marketing agency, but now I basically just do sales. Yeah. So you learn those skills. But I kind of think that those skills would be really well transferable to also selling internally.
Definitely, yeah. And I think marketing and sales, I think they are like quite related. I do not know if I could have really like a SaaS, like selling SaaS products myself. Perhaps I could. And I think it's really interesting, but I think in order to do marketing and sales, yeah, you have to be able to sell an idea, I think, at least. Yeah.
Love it. All right, this feels like a pretty good moment to wrap this conversation up. Ana Laura, this has been great. Thank you so much for speaking to me. If people want to connect and talk to you more, is LinkedIn the best place to do that?
LinkedIn's the best place, yes.
Okay, so I will drop the link to your LinkedIn in the show notes. And for those who were listening, please share this episode with somebody that you think would find it helpful, and give it a like, and please do subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.